Men rising up to end the silence around us about the chains that bind us, to dispel the darkness of illusion with luminous spiritual technologies, to finally become the hero within us all. Most welcome to Arise, the Honest Man's podcast. With me is my dear co-host Jai Jagannath Prabhu, as well as Hari Vilas and Deva Madhava. So, JJP, the plight of lonely men.
Yeah, I don't imagine loneliness is unique to men. But we're talking about it from the man's perspective because this is the Honest Man's podcast. I wanna start off with a question, or maybe more or less a quote, and just get some initial thoughts on this particular quote, and then take it from there. This is a statement I've come across on several occasions in the sacred texts of India, particularly Vedanta, like Bhagavatam. And this is the statement: we are born alone, we die alone, and in the interim, we suffer the results of our actions alone. Should I say it again? We're born alone, we die alone, and in the interim, we suffer the results of our actions alone. So this seems to paint a very kind of depressing picture. And I want to share a little commentary also in this regard. This is coming in the Bhagavad Purana 6th canto, where the angels and the demons are having a conversation, Vishnu Dutas, Yamadutas. And the Yamadutas are speaking, they're answering a question about who's worthy of punishment in this world. And they basically come to the conclusion that everybody, because everyone's under the influence of these external forces that they can't resist. And so sometimes they're doing good, but many times they're doing some nonsense. And so everyone's punishable. And in the course of establishing this idea, they said that all souls in this world are suffering in the ocean of elements alone. And as you know, the material world is understood to be an ocean of various elements, not the periodic table elements, but Mahatattva, Hankara, Manas, Buddhi, and so on. Anyway, we're not going to go through all those metaphysics here. But the material world is an ocean of material elements. The body is a conglomeration of these elements, or an amalgam of these elements. And we're suffering alone in that ocean. And then commenting on this, Bhaktivedanta Swami writes this. I just want to read this. This is from 6th canto, chapter 1, verse 50. The living entity has a body, which is a very complicated combination of the material elements. And with this body, he struggles alone, as indicated by the words ekastu. For example, if one is struggling in the ocean, he must swim through it alone. Although many other men and aquatics are swimming in the ocean, he must take care of himself because no one else will help him. Therefore, this verse indicates that the 17th item, the soul, must work alone. Although he tries to create society, friendship, and love, no one will be able to help him but Krishna, God, the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his only concern should be how to satisfy Krishna. And that is also what Krishna wants. So people bewildered by material conditions try to be united, but although they strive for unity among men and nations, all their attempts are futile. Everyone must struggle alone for existence with the many elements of nature. So these statements are painting a very grim and depressing picture. Can I get some comments on this? We are born alone, we die alone, and in the interim, we suffer the results of our consequences alone. How are you hearing this message? I mean, initially, it just strikes me as really depressing. And is this actually our philosophy? First comments.
Yeah, Hari Vilas, is this actually our philosophy?
Please come join us. You're going to struggle alone. When you suffer, we're going to lead you to it.
Chant and be happy. That's not quite the direct experience of the immediate.
The thing that comes to mind if you hear it is that it's ironic because on the other side of our philosophy, we place a great emphasis on the association as the primary thing that Protestant will save us. And it's like we're such a communal movement. Isn't that ironic? Like,
it is.
Obviously, there's two things that have to balance out. And at least one has to understand what that perspective is. And I think that at least that's what the Prophet is writing from, or at least that aspect is the reality that in your own internal world, in your deepest self, you are completely isolated from anyone else. And the person that is there with you, the only person, it's like, if you think about the real principle of loneliness, it doesn't mean that you're not with other people. You can be surrounded by other people and you can still be lonely as anything. You can have a job, you can even have a family, everything. You can feel alone. But the real principle of that loneliness comes from the fact that that you are isolated and no one can understand you. Like people don't see you, don't understand you, don't really know who you are, and they don't know what you're going through. But who can? What other human can really know what you're going through, what you're doing, what you're thinking? Because there's these layers of privacy. And even if you think about this, you have friends, then say you have a spouse, you have certain people that enter into deeper levels of your own experience. But the majority is just like the tip of the iceberg. Even the person that you spend 30 years with your life, yes, they know a lot about you, whatever, but there's a deeper inner core of your own experience that stays always private. And even if you try to verbalize it to someone else, you can't, because they can't really understand. Really understand what you're experiencing, because we are separated. So the only individual that can really understand what you are experiencing is Krishna. So therefore, I think Prabhupada is writing this from that deep, ultimate inner perspective of the individual's experience. And that point, one really is alone. And even if you get married and all these things at the same time, you know that you stay an individual, isolated, ultimately, from everyone except Krishna. And that it is a jarring reality, but it is definitely a fact.